Tyler, welcome
going on?
to Let's Talk Mazda. So we're actually sitting here in front of your race car.
Yes.
Can I call it a race car?
Yeah, well, it is a race car.
It's a race car. So we're just going to be talking about some Spec Miata stuff.
Yep.
So actually, I did prepare a list of questions. I never do this, but yesterday I was so excited.
I feel important.
You are important. You're important to me.
Thank you.
And I don't know if Mike's going to keep coming in. We're in Red Mist Automotive, the HQ for a lot of the shenanigans we do.
Yes.
Mike's trying to close the door all soft, which I appreciate. Thanks, Mike.
Trying to be quiet, so I didn't.
Hey, we're not going to not acknowledge you, all right? He's going to edit some videos, going to do some stuff. Yep? Okay.
Coming out never.
Yeah, probably. Hey, when was your last video? Like 4 months ago?
Sometime back in Nam.
Oh, God.
Oh, that's good.
Okay. Well, so we're going to get into a lot of Spec Miata stuff. But first of all, why Spec Miata? You know, there's Spec E30. We have our friend Jake who races for Honda Challenge. Why Miatas?
So Spec Miata was kind of the first class of racing I was introduced to. Before I was just a kid who liked going to car meets. I had a 07 STI RIP.
Which is...
There's pieces of it outside. It burnt down exactly a year ago this weekend, actually.
Really?
Yeah. Jeez. Yeah. Again, RIP. So, buddy of mine that I race with now was building a Miata when I was down at Fort Benning, Georgia, and he was talking about having me come help him out when I got back into the Chicagoland area. So I kind of helped him build his first car. We went to get it teched for the year up at Advanced Auto Sports in Beloit. Everybody else had brought theirs there, and I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, not just because it was the only one I knew of, but it's dubbed the SCCA's most competitive class.
Really? Okay.
You're going to be hard-pressed to find a race where you don't have at least 30 cars.
Wow.
They nickname it Spec Pinata because everybody's bouncing off each other. Bump drafting is encouraged. They're real low-horsepower cars, so that's really the only way you're going to go fast.
Right.
On a bigger track, that is. But it's just super competitive. A lot of the guys that run it, a lot of them end up going pro, and it's just a lot of fun in a super high competitive class. So
Yeah. I mean, I personally would do Spec Miata, obviously, too, but I never knew, I didn't know 30 cars a race.
At least, yeah,
Really?
generally. Yep.
Because, I mean, generally speaking, it's not the most expensive racing series in the world.
No.
So I think that helps out a lot, too, of course. But
Definitely.
all that stuff. So, got a couple more questions. Well, let's talk about, you were saying bump drafting is like a good way to get ahead. Modifications for these things.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about that for a little bit, because you actually make them slower.
Yeah,
a little bit.
So a Spec Miata is essentially a stock motor with a restrictor plate in it, and the restrictor plate sizes differ between years based off of the determined amount of power that they make stock. So it's pretty depressing the size that you actually see the throttle body goes to once you put that restrictor plate in there. So when you do that, it kind of helps to even out the class and make sure that the NAs versus the MBs are...
Mike was trying to be so quiet on the stairs. It was so funny.
There's no being quiet on those stairs.
I saw you tiptoeing.
Shush!
It was so adorable.
I'm trying so hard not to mess up this video for you guys. You keep on bringing me back in.
It's because it's so funny. Oh, hey, pro tip: wear a not neon shirt next time.
Well, you can't hear my shirt.
Yeah, but
yes,
I
you
keep
can.
seeing you.
Yes, you
I'm
can.
looking over. Yeah,
That shirt is loud.
That is a loud
Hella
shirt,
loud.
my guy.
I can't hear you over your shirt.
Hey, bud, quiet down the clothing, all right?
Says the guy.
You're wearing tie-dye.
All right, I guess I have no room to talk. Anyway, restrictor plates.
Yeah, so the restrictor plates essentially even out the class. But that's pretty much what you can do with it.
Because you run 1.6s and 1.8s side by side.
Yeah,
right?
1.6s, 1.8s, NAs, MBs, anything within that spectrum of Mazda or of Miatas you can run.
Okay.
Other things that we do to the car, so every car has the same exact suspension setup. So Bilstein shocks with iBox springs, and then iBox sway bars front and rear.
I forgot about the air compressor.
The 90-year-old air compressor in the corner.
Yeah, dude.
It
Hey,
was legit built in 1942.
hey, get an air compressor from this century.
I'll work on it.
How about that? Okay.
How about this weekend? I'll do it.
This weekend.
Just for you.
All right. Thanks, man.
Just for you, I'll do it this weekend.
Thanks.
What
I'm
you
gonna
don't
shut
know
that off.
is that's actually happening.
I'm gonna go shut that off and slit my wrist.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. I hope you can see his super orange shirt in the video. And if you're listening to this on iTunes or Spotify, check out the video, Shooting Cars on YouTube.
Yeah.
Jeez.
He's actually getting a.
Is he?
There's a new air compressor coming.
Oh, good. Hey, do a air compressor unboxing video.
Okay.
So-
That'll be released in 2021.
I know.
The video.
So, what were we talking about?
Modifications we can do
Right,
on the Miata.
right.
So, the Eibach front and sway rear bars, front and rear sway bars. Can't talk. Words are hard. And then we do kind of like a custom end link, adjustable end links, front and rear. You can do an exhaust on it, but there's certain specifications you can do on that.
Like diameter, I
Yeah,
would assume, and
yeah.
okay.
And then everybody runs the same tire, so everybody runs Hoosier SM7s. Next year they're switching over to the Hoosier SM8s.
Okay.
Excuse me. And then the shocks are actually changing next year, so we're doing Penske's next year instead of
That's
the.
Spec Miata wide.
Yep.
So literally everyone has to change their suspension.
You'll
this
be
year?
able to for the first part of the season run what we've got now, but
Okay, and then
it'll be a, kind of a
transition
transition period.
So
yeah.
by this time next year, everyone will be on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep.
So how much freedom do you have, like customization wise? Like obviously, you've done a really cool color. I love this color. It's
Thank
the
you.
Focus RS color,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And I love the headlights, and it has yellow accents and everything.
Yep.
But other than like paint schemes,
Mhm.
how much customization can you do to
Nothing.
make it yours? Really?
Nothing. So
Rims?
you can do. There's certain wheels that you're allowed to use.
Okay.
They all have to be within a certain weight specification. I mean, you can paint the wheels as well, but with the amount of brake dust that we're putting off in a race,
Yeah.
there's really no point in it.
Speaking of which, what brakes is it?
You can really. There's a bunch of different things we use. I've used Hawk Blues. My teammates are using Paget's right now. They're really liking that.
Okay.
They said it's really good brake modularization. So I might use those some point, but a lot of that's going to be coming from that guy, my crew chief and coach over there.
Orange t-shirt guy. Give him
Orange
a shout
t-shirt
out.
guy.
Shout out, Mike.
So whatever he tells me to use, I'm going to go with.
Yeah.
I'm not an experienced driver by any means, so whatever he thinks will best fit my style,
Right.
and we'll probably play with a few different things and see what works best.
Right.
Because we're not allowed to do any brake ducting either.
So speaking of which, because I'm looking at this
Yes.
bumper, and I'm not sure the specifics between NB1 and NB2.
Yep.
Can you just run stock bumper? Can you do any
Yeah.
lips or any aero?
So you can do a lip, but the lip has to be the OEM lip. As of recently, you had to actually buy it from Mazda. It had to be the actual stock
Wow. Okay.
lip. But you can buy OEM replicas or something like that now, stuff like
Okay.
that now. But you can't do any kind of aero in the front. Fog lights, you can see in the shot here probably, they're taped over right now. I haven't touched them since the car got painted, but they actually have to be covered up. So I
okay.
gotta do like an aluminum plate or a plastic plate
Yeah,
and actually
because my
cover it.
question was going to be is one bumper more aerodynamic? Because I know we'll go back to it in a little bit, but guys try to push every little horsepower they
Yeah.
can within the rules.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if maybe one bumper was better or.
Nope.
Okay, yeah.
Nope. The whole body has to be stock body wise. I mean, the cage, there's only certain specifications you can do on that. Like, you can't have more than 8 contact points to the body.
Okay.
So the rules within Spec Miata are very, very, very tight.
Right.
So, I mean, it says in the book, like, if it doesn't say you can do it, you can't.
Right. So going with that, we were talking a while ago about how guys will put thousands of dollars
Yeah.
into a built head for a couple horsepower.
Yeah. 2 or 3 horsepower in the class will make a huge difference.
So,
yeah.
that's just like within. What kind of modification can you do with that with the heads? Do you know?
Very little stuff. Mike would probably be able to tell you more about that, but it's not a lot.
Yeah.
You can only go 10 over compression. The there's a certain spec that you got to have the walls of the cylinder can be before you got to scrap the motor. But I mean, at the end of the day, you're essentially trying to get the motor back up to stock horsepower because of that restrictor plate.
Yeah.
So, and you can't do anything like air intake. You can't do anything like that. You can't bore out the intake manifold. They'll weigh valves and springs and stuff like that. They've got fall-through testers that if you get protested in a race and say, hey, this guy's running this illegal thing, they've got a tool that they will push through, something in the head, and if it falls through, you're legal, and if it stops, then you're good.
So do they? Because we were talking earlier. How much horsepower are you about putting out?
We don't know on this yet, but the really, really fast guys are low 130s.
Okay.
If you're getting in the 130s, you're happy. You're very, very happy.
Okay,
So.
for sure. Now, we were talking earlier in this podcast like 2 minutes ago. You were talking about your teammates, right?
Yeah.
So how do teams and sponsorships, and how does that work?
So
This isn't your full-time thing.
No. This is club racing. It's amateur stuff. Obviously, everybody's got kind of that dream to go and make this their career. But in this day and age, it's not an easy thing to do.
Right.
But my teammates are essentially friends of mine. Dan, who's the guy that got me into it, known him since high school, and I just kind of helped him build his first car, which another rip that found a wall and turned through at Road America at 80 miles an hour. So
Really?
yeah, that car is gone.
Yeah. Okay.
So he's onto an MB now. That was an NA, but essentially helped him build his, and then I got into it from that. And then Lee Werner we brought in. Lee is a guy that I met through Midwest Karting League. We used to do karting leagues at like Accelerate and K1 and stuff like that. So I met him through there, and he was a stock car guy before. He would do road course stock car stuff at Autobahn. So we just kind of all got together and we're like, let's do this together. So that's kind of how the team went. Sponsor-wise, Mike is my primary sponsor and coach and guru, and he did the cage and the motor. So it was just kind of one of those things where I approached him about it and was like, hey, I want to build this.
Yeah.
Let me put your stickers on my car.
Yeah.
What can we do for each other? So that worked out that way. I got a partnership with Strikeforce Energy, military energy company, which is fantastic stuff. Pump it in water or whatever you want. It's just a liquid. And just kind of reach out to them.
It's like an energy drink. You can add it to...
Do whatever you want.
We'll plug it for them.
Yeah.
But, no, I think we have a pump over there. I'm going to try it a little bit later.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, so did they approach you or you approached them?
I reached out to them. They sponsored a podcast I listened to, and I was like, well, let's see what we can do. So I shot them an email. I was like, hey, here's what we're planning on doing here. Can we work together? Can I put your stickers on my car? Can we do some stuff? So we worked out a deal, and I run their stickers, and I get a pretty cool deal with their stuff.
Yeah.
So
I think anyone trying to get into like stuff like that, because I've reached out to some people too and gotten deals and all that stuff. I think the biggest thing, if you're either trying to get into video stuff or car racing stuff, ask.
Yeah.
Just be straight up. Have your intentions on the table, and I think
exactly.
It seems to have worked out for you, and it's worked out for me as well. And
any bit helps, like it's not a cheap sport. It's not a cheap hobby in general. So if you can find people that you can be mutually beneficial towards each other, like why not? It's, I can sponsor for them, and people, hey, what's that thing all about? That sticker. B, I get some pretty cool stickers on my car, which is a nice thing. Yeah. It's not just, there's nothing on there now, but there will be eventually. Right. And B, you can get some, they can help you out as well. So it doesn't hurt. All they can say is no.
Yeah, if they just reply or don't reply at all, it's like, all right, you just walk away.
Exactly.
And I think I've had good success with that, and you obviously have too. So
it's been nice.
Good.
Yeah.
So, what year is this, by the way?
99.
99.
Yep.
Okay. So, what was the process of buying the car and then making it into a Spec Miata competitive car? Because obviously, like we talked about earlier, there's a lot done to it.
Yeah.
What was that process like?
So when I originally kind of decided that I wanted to do it, Dan, my teammate, his dad works at a Mazda dealership around here, and he said, hey.
What is that?
Front end loader.
Oh. they're paving the road outside. Yeah. We probably chose the worst day to film any form of audio, but yeah, they're repaving the road outside, so it's probably some noises. But.
Yeah. So he reached out and said, "Hey, we got a new car in." I went and looked at it. It had been in a wreck before, but we didn't see any noticeable damage, or it was still straight. It measured out straight, so we were like, "Let's do it."
Yeah.
Got it home, started stripping the interior, and we realized that whatever the lady had hit before, she hit it really, really hard because it was crimped at the trans tunnel. The trans tunnel was actually bent up.
Oh.
Yeah, and the firewall had been welded shut again. We realized after we pulled the motor out. So it was bad. It was really, really bad. So
okay, I'm trying to. What could she have
I
hit?
don't know.
Okay,
It blows my mind, but essentially.
Was it automatic or manual?
Manual.
Okay.
Yeah. So we sent a message out to Dave Wheeler at Advanced Auto Sports in Beloit, and he's one of the guys that created Spec Miata. Like, he was one of the founders, and he was like, "Don't you dare use that car." It just wasn't safe, right?
Right.
So we knew this kid that was running a 10th AE, 10th anniversary 99, and didn't have a title for it. And I was like, "Hey, let's just do a straight trade. You take my car, I take your car. I'll do the swap for you, and you can have a title on your car and have a legal vehicle, right?"
Right. Yeah.
And I don't need a title because it's a race
Right.
car. Well, I took it, and we swapped the motors right here where we're sitting right now.
Yeah.
And this is now a 10th AE car that I just did a straight trade of.
Okay.
And I mean, from there it took almost a year, I want to say, to put it all together, and it was done about 4 hours before the first race it was ever in. You can take a look at the exhaust later. We were talking about that at lunch.
Yeah.
It was put together in about 45 minutes at 3 o'clock in the morning.
But it works.
It worked. It made it through the race. It finished ninth. The only issue I had was in my lack of sleep when I was hooking all the wires up, I didn't tighten down the nut on the starter. So every time I went through a right-hand corner turn, it would short on me. So it was like the car would be like, on the throttle, and then it would just die, and then it would turn back on and be on the throttle again. So it was like jerking everywhere throughout the track.
Okay, yeah.
That was the only issue we had the whole time. Brought it home, pulled the motor out, and it just got done a couple weeks ago again. So
okay.
Yeah.
So you did the motor swap and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So in preparation for this, I looked on the SCCA website and NASA website, and they have a manual that's 600 pages long.
Yes.
Of every requirement.
Yep.
Did you print that out and
Yeah.
just go page by page and just check things off, or?
Luckily, we had a lot of friends that were already in the sport, and I had a teammate who had already gone through this with his car. Actually, 2 cars by then, and so we were pretty familiar with what we could and couldn't do. So, and we also had Advance has a builder's book, a first-time builder's book that he sells.
Oh, okay.
And it's literally like, hey, do this. This is the best way to do this, which was a huge help because it was, sitting in my garage alone. I'm not the most technically knowledge person about cars. This is kind of where I learned most of my stuff on. And when I didn't know something, I was able to open that book and be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And everything in that book, the way he tells you to do it, is by the rules. So that was a huge help. And it's extensive. It's an extensive manual.
Yeah. Because what I did a car review a while ago for a police version of the Chevy Tahoe.
Okay.
And it had like a 60-page manual. So I printed it out and I read some of the stuff off, and I was like, I'll do that for this, get some prepreration in, know my stuff. And I opened the PDF, which is for October of 2018, and it was 670, I want to say.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't have enough ink and paper for that. And I'm not gonna go out and buy probably 2 things of paper.
Yeah.
So,
My guess is they probably either did it right after the runoffs this year, which were actually this past weekend. I don't know when it was either. You looked at the manual, but it was either right after or right before, because that was a championship race happened this past weekend. So they probably did that as either a result or in preparation for that make sure nobody's breaking the rules. So.
Right. Yeah. So and I didn't realize they updated it monthly.
Yeah. As new rules are broken, they'll add new stuff to it.
Yeah. Which is.
And sometimes it's a rule they hadn't even written about. But like I said earlier, if it doesn't say you can do it, you can't.
Right.
So it gets pretty refined.
So, because there is like a nationwide Spec Miata champion, right?
Yeah.
So what's the process to get there?
Yeah, so we started off running just kind of small club racing with Chicagoland Sports Car Club, that's not even the term for it. But anyway, smaller group.
Right.
And they run at a few tracks throughout the Midwest, and nobody's trying to really go out and win a national championship. It's just something fun they do on the weekends.
Right.
But you also can do regionals and majors events, which are the ones that people will travel around the country to and do those races. And at those, you can build up points towards the championship. And you have to get a certain amount of races and points to go and actually, submit yourself to the runoffs.
Okay.
And then you got to go and actually qualify for the runoffs, because you'll get over 100 cars that'll sign up to go to the runoffs. They can only run a certain amount.
Right.
Last year at Indy, they had like 80-something cars in the race. It was intense.
And that's all wheel to wheel, right?
Yeah, all wheel to wheel. Yeah, so everybody's starting stacked up, nose to nose, bumper to bumper, fender to fender, and everybody tries to win it in the first turn, which anybody who races knows that's not possible.
Yeah.
Very easy to lose in the first turn.
Yeah.
So it gets rowdy. It's a contact sport.
For sure. And you're saying there's like different regions, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we're the central region.
Central
here
region.
in Chicago. Okay.
Yep. So a lot of the really fast guys are more towards the Florida, Texas area down south. But there are some faster guys up here, obviously. But most of those fast guys you'll see are the ones that are able to race year round.
Right. Yeah.
Which helps a little.
I mean, yeah. Seat time is a lot.
It's king.
Which, speaking of which, okay. So say which I personally would want to get into Spec Miata.
Mm-hmm. We can make that happen. We can make that happen.
We could.
We could. We can make that happen.
I mean, I would love to. But what would I need to do? Would I need like a race license, or can I just sign my name on a waiver, get in the car, and go?
You'll need to do a race license. I did mine through council, which essentially you go out for a weekend and you do a classroom course. And then you do like a written test, which is usually just like kind of rules of the road type stuff, knowing what flags mean.
Blinkers.
Yeah, stuff like that. Make sure you're turned up, up and away. If you're parking uphill, down to the ground if you're pointing down, stuff like that,
Obey crosswalks.
Yeah.
On the racetrack, of course.
Yeah. So you do a classroom course, and then throughout the weekend they kind of progress you into more and more difficult things you'll be doing on the racetrack. And at the end of it, they do a race.
Right.
And after, as long as you finish that, you get your race, or you get your racing license as a novice. And then you run a certain amount of races cleanly, and they'll sign off on your novice license a certain amount of times. And after you reach that requirement, then you don't have to be a novice anymore, which is nice, because as a novice, you got to put little big X's all over your car so everybody knows, like, watch out for this idiot. So, yeah.
So, and that's only for wheel to wheel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, Mike, you're an instructor, right?
Yeah.
So, like, a racing license is just for, like, wheel to wheel. So, if I want to just go out on runs, I don't need a race license?
Right, for track day stuff, you don't need a license. You actually don't even need a driver's license as long as you have a waiver signed.
Yeah.
And also, is it an actual physical license?
I mean,
Like, can I flex it at, like, the next bar I go to?
Yeah.
My race license.
I have
Babe, I can drive a race car.
I have an instructor license.
Hey, come show that on camera. Or don't, actually, probably.
nobody wants to see his face.
Yeah, that's gross.
Try to save your camera lens, kid.
Might crack.
Shatter the lens.
Yeah, like.
Just do the red mist, just toss it anywhere in front of the lens and hopes it gets it. Hey,
It went under
that's
the car.
gone forever now. Hey, look, it matched the car.
Does the cockpit match the Miata?
Jeez.
Well, scrap this video. Can't put that up.
Oh, wow, yeah. Mike Picot? Is that?
Yeah, Pico.
Picot?
Yeah, Pico de Gallo.
Yeah. So, wow, you actually you're a certified instructor.
Yeah.
Special.
You should teach me
Listen.
things someday.
So now I can go like anywhere in the country that
Teach.
NASA has an event, and I can teach it, or anybody that recognizes NASA's instructor program,
Yeah.
I can just instruct for them.
Interesting. I'll have to have you instruct me to get a license. I need one.
Step 1, go to an event.
Hey, man. I always get cracked
helps.
because I don't track my car yet.
You need to.
I know. I want a wheel and a seat and suspension because it's a little The FB's a little wobbly on stock suspension.
We want to track the Paseo for next year, so.
I tracked a '93 Voyager. It was the sport model though.
We also tracked his Lexus.
Yeah.
You tracked the Lexus?
Yeah, I have in-car that will never be ever shown
Yeah.
publicly.
Yeah.
Why?
Because you're not supposed to do that.
Oh,
And it was at a track that will not be named.
We'll edit that in post.
yeah, chop that out.
No, it was at a track that I'm not going to say, but it was really wet, and
Yeah.
we brought Ron Burgundy to run it, and the window was fogging up so bad, and it was raining so hard. And
Yeah.
part of the day it actually flurried,
Yeah.
and it was raining so hard and it was so cold that with no heater cord hooked up, the window kept fogging up. So we stopped driving it, and then I asked if I could take the Lexus out, which we use as a tow vehicle.
Yeah.
We actually have a video of me chasing down some kid in a Subaru
Yeah.
while we're laughing our asses off
Yeah.
in a Lexus RX 300.
With trash control just kicking on, stopping us from having any kind of fun.
Yeah, we're going into corners and it's going beep, 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 the whole time.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah. But yeah, I do need to get out on the track.
Yes, you do. It's a good time.
But, yeah, let me see if I had any more questions for you.
All right.
I want to make sure I hit everything.
Any more questions?
Hey, man. I think the last thing just want to talk about is, like, it's a weekend thing for you,
Mhm.
right? Because you obviously have a full-time job.
Yep.
And so, like, I think that the biggest thing is people are, like, so afraid of the time commitment.
Mhm.
Like, oh, I don't have time to be a race car driver. What would you, like, if I came up to you, like, I don't have time to be a race car driver, what would you say to me?
If you have any time to work on a car, you can do it. This car has run one race and it's been worked on for 2 years.
Right.
It happens. Obviously, I would love to drive this thing every weekend, but sometimes money, time, family, whatever it
Yeah.
is, it takes priority, right? So, even if it's just something that you build over a couple of years and you finally get it done and you race it a couple weekends a year, like you're still getting on track, you're still having fun,
Right.
you're still racing.
Is track time expensive? Like, entering into races, is it?
It can be, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Generally you'll probably spend for a race weekend between gas and tires and entry fees. It's pretty pricey.
Right.
But it sounds cliche, but the fun is absolutely worth the price.
Right.
That you create stories and friendships and bonds with people that like it's like any sport that somebody falls in love with.
Right.
If you were an athlete in high school or in college or whatever it might be, like you always look back on those times that you had in those years, and I do too. I was in track and field in high school and college, and I missed the competitiveness and the bond that I built with the people that I was
Right.
competing against and with. And now that I've started racing, I've found that again, and it's great. It's an amazing thing because nobody's out here to win money. Right?
Right.
There's no purse for what when you win a championship.
Right.
It's just for bragging rights, really.
I think that's huge with Spec Miata because
Yeah.
it's like some people might have laughed when you said it was like 120, 130 horsepower.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
it
yeah.
keeps everyone.
I laugh about it.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah,
pathetic.
that's a low amount of
Yeah.
horsepower, but like it keeps everyone competitive, and I think you build those friendships and stuff because
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
there is no. It's not like, oh, if I'm better than you, I'm gonna win $1 million.
Right.
It's if I'm better than you, I get to tell you that.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
that's- Yeah.
There was one race so far that I know of that actually was money, and that was the NASA Championships, and that was a big amount of money.
Right.
That was the first time anybody did it. But that's a different story. But you create a lot of bonds.
Right.
And nobody is out to get you. Everybody wants everybody to see well because racing side by side with somebody or going 3 wide into a corner or dive bombing somebody in a corner, making a clean pass is a lot more fun than going out and doing a track day. And that's not to say track days aren't fun; they're a blast.
Right.
But racing side by side and getting fender to fender with somebody is so much more
you
fun.
get that
So
companionship,
Yeah.
and competitive, yeah.
so you want everybody to be as fast as you or faster because it either gives you a landmark to shoot for or it gives you somebody to race with all the time. So to this day, I haven't met anybody in racing that's been out to really get me or my teammates. It's just been fun.
Yeah.
Everybody goes out and has a good time, and we make fun of each other later for stupid things we did.
Yeah.
I have the nickname Hang Time. I've jumped 2 Spec Miatas.
Yeah, you want
Neither of them mine.
Wait. You've jumped 2 of them?
2 of them.
So I know of the latest time, which was
Yes.
a couple months ago, right?
Yes, that was in July.
So you went off track and jumped, right?
Yeah. So Blackhawk Farms Raceway in Beloit. The car setup was extra loose, extremely loose. The guy who owned the car, Dan, my teammate, told me, "Hey, make sure you brake in a straight line, otherwise this car will come around on you."
Oh, that loose.
Yeah. So I got a little loose coming out of the kink, which is turn 2. Mentally waited and told myself, okay, wait till it's settled. Wait till it's settled. Okay, I think it's settled. It's definitely settled. Okay, I can brake now. Hit the brakes. As soon as I hit the brakes, the rear end of the car came off to my right and just went and swapped ends. So I was facing the wrong direction on the track, going through the grass, and it was still like 9 in the morning, so there was still dew in the grass. So there was no stopping anytime soon.
Yeah.
And the outside of turn 3, there is a berm. On the other side of said berm is woods. And I went over the berm and into the woods. Luckily, didn't hit any trees.
I was just gonna ask. I don't
Yeah.
remember you hitting a tree, but
We suspect that the reason we had to replace the entire front left suspension was because I went over a tree stump that just pulled it back because everything looked like it was peeled.
Yeah.
So we had to do the front subframe, the control arms, the shock. I think the wheel was bent. Everything in the front left and then the front subframe needed to be changed.
Okay.
That was really it.
Yeah.
So thank God that was the case.
Yeah.
But that was kind of scary because you don't want to wreck somebody else's car that just is willing,
Yeah.
trusts you enough to give you their keys,
Right,
and you wreck it
yeah.
on the second lap. Like, that's
Yeah.
not a good day. The first one I did was the weekend I got my racing license. Same kid, Dan, his first car before he really wrecked it. Same racetrack as well.
Different corner.
Different corner. Went
Okay.
through, came out of 5, and my instructor was telling me, "Hey, go find the rumbles on the inside. You know, you're not using the whole corner."
Right.
So I went and found them, and then I went past them.
Ah.
And being a Subaru kid, I thought, yeah, get on the power and get out of the grass. Well, it's a rear-wheel drive car. I wasn't thinking, so that just sucked me further into the grass, and there's a big ditch out there. And I hit that and went all Dukes of Hazzard up in the air. All I saw was sky for a second, and then I came slamming back down. And luckily that time, the only thing I broke was the lip. But my teammate who lent me the car was walking through the pits while I was out, and somebody else from another camp was like, "Hey, Dan, how come your PPF is painted orange?" I was like, "Oh, well, Dad got a hold of the rattle can and, started spray." "Why do you know that?" And they're like, "We just went airborne about 4 feet out in 5. And he's like, "Oh, man, come on." So next time I came around, the same corner, he was standing there waiting for me doing this, like,
Yeah.
clapping, like, good job.
Yeah.
So, needless to say, I'm no longer allowed to drive his cars,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is fine because I finally have my car
Right,
is
right.
sorted.
And I think the other
So-
nice thing is that, parts are easy to find for these.
Oh, very, very,
Yeah.
very.
So you bust a subframe,
Yeah.
which would be probably one of the more challenging parts to find, but
Yeah.
still not
Exactly.
the end of the world. So I think that's fine.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it helps that my teammate's dad works for Mazda.
Right.
Is
Yeah.
the parts manager
It's always
of,
good to have
at Mazda.
Yeah.
So
That always helps.
yeah.
So one last question. I
All right.
ask all my guests.
All right.
If you had an unlimited budget,
Yeah.
what sort of Mazda would you build? Would you want to build a Miata, or would you want to unlimited budget, anything in the world?
That's a really hard question. Is there any specific purpose, or just anything at all?
Anything you want.
Man, that's wide.
Yeah. Would you? Because I'm wondering for you if you would build another racing Miata if you love the chassis that much.
You see, the only series that I know of, like, that I really want to race in that Mazda has is this, or it would be like something in IMSA.
Right.
But those are very specific prototype type cars, right?
Right.
So if I was going to do something that I was building it, I would probably either do a Time Attacker Hill Climb Miata or FD.
Okay.
And I would probably do like a 3-rotor swap in it. I feel like that's a super cliche answer, but just
It's becoming more and more cliche.
I'm
but-
sure, yeah.
No,
it's-
but I love 3 rotors.
yeah,
I
it
mean,
just
I don't
the
think
sound
anyone-
is so good.
Yeah.
And just the RPM range on that, it'd be nuts.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a wild time attack car. Crazy aero.
Oh yeah.
Full carbon fiber body.
Yeah.
And just make it a really dope time attack or hill climb car.
I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I've seen so many episodes out of this shop, and I've never been here for even a recording of it. I feel excited.
I know. We're finally here at the same time, which is very unusual.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Mike, for chiming in.
What?
Shh. Go away.
I said thanks, Mike, for chiming in.
You wouldn't let me not be chiming in.
I know. We kind of bullied him into being in this podcast.
We really wanted him in the video.
Yeah, I know. I don't know why. Come over here. Come give the fans what they want. If you're watching a video podcast, you're watching on Spotify or iTunes.
They don't want this.
Give the fans what they want.
Yeah.
And by the fans, it's one fan, and he's wearing a tie-dye shirt sitting in a Miata chair.
Hey, man.
He's his
Also,
own fan?
shout out to Adam for these chairs.
Yeah.
There
Thanks,
he
Adam.
is.
He probably doesn't even know that they're still here.
No, probably not.
You will now.
All right. Well,
Adam.
thank you guys so much for listening. If you want to download the audio, you can go to Spotify or iTunes. Link will be in the description below. And that's it.
If you like the video, make sure to like the video, comment on the video, and subscribe.
Rate the video.
Whatever.
There goes a sight from my soul.